Wendy dies. Within chapter 516, we left off on an absolutely insane cliffhanger where Eileen had essentially utilized her enchantment magic to actually take control of Wendy's body and essentially steal her own body from her, thus leaving us with the name of chapter 517 being entitled Wendy Belsirion. At this current point in time, with how last chapter actually left off, Wendy as a character is really at a point where in the grand scheme of things, she could actually possibly lose her life. And with the spoilers coming out relatively soon, we're essentially going to receive a ton of information on this entire situation very soon. But when it does come down to it, although it seems very possible, Wendy's death is still relatively questionable. Not because of the saying that nobody ever dies in fairy tale, well, partially because of that, but simply because of the fact that there is a ton of ways to prevent her death in the grand scheme of things. For starters, it's possible that Wendy isn't actually currently sharing her body with Eileen and simply switched bodies entirely with Eileen. And if that is the case, Wendy would still be injured, seeing as Urza did make contact with Eileen when she was about to deliver the final blow. But on the brighter side of things, that would actually leave room for Urza not to have to hold back against Eileen, or at this point Wendy, in the inevitable fight that will actually play out in front of us. However, on the other side of the spectrum, it is still likely that Wendy and Eileen are both actually occupying Wendy's body, and if that's the case, it's going to be a really tough spot for Urza to actually be put in. Essentially, at that point, to kill the enemy, she'd have to slay her own Nakama, and knowing Urza, she would rather die herself than slaying her own Nakama, especially because of the obvious elder sister and younger sister relationship that we see between Urza and Wendy. So instead of Wendy dying, we could actually possibly see Urza actually die because of her unwillingness to slay the enemy who is currently being betrayed as her close Nakama. However, I don't really see this to be likely in the grand scheme of things. Now, one of my really close friends, Perm, actually made a video talking about the possibility of something actually taking place that in return would allow for Wendy to actually see past this deadly fight. And to say the very least, I found his theory to be absolutely brilliant. In the instance of Wendy and Eileen actually currently both occupy Wendy's body, that actually leaves room for Wendy to actually regain control over the body that Eileen currently has control over. If that were to take place, Wendy would actually have room to essentially save the day by invoking Milky Way. During this time, Wendy could have actually looked into Eileen's memories and found out about her close affiliation with the Dragon Belsirion, who was actually a casualty of the Dragon Civil War. And what she could do from here is that she could summon Belsirion with the use of Milky Way. Now, theoretically, to actually do this, Belsirion would have actually had to die somewhere near Wendy, much like what we saw when Wendy called upon Atlas Flame, who was dead right in front of her. Now, this is likely, however, seeing as Belsirion died in Ishgard, where the Dragon Civil War actually took place, and we're undoubtedly currently near Ishgard right now, if not right on it. So, if Wendy actually summoned Belsirion, knowing how Eileen was really close to him, that could actually leave room for Wendy and Urza to possibly win the fight. Now, from there, I don't know where they'd go about doing it. However, it could distract Eileen to a certain extent and actually give them the leeway in this fight as well. This could allow for chapter 517's title to actually be a dual meaning. Nevertheless, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Do you guys think that Wendy is actually going to die, or do you think that she'll actually be saved somehow? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Peace.